Hello, everybody. We are in Hubbard, Iowa, which is about an hour outside of Des Moines in north central Iowa. And we are going to learn about a beef finishing operation today. So, my name is Ellie Cook, and I'm the Education Programs Intern with Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation. I'll give you a little view of what we got going on around here. And there is our beef operation, so I'm going to give it to my brother Levi to explain a little bit about the operation.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Levi Cook. As my sister Ellie said, this is our beef finishing operation. Our farm consists of myself, my dad, and then my mom's dad, my grandpa. We're about 2,000 acre corn and soybean operation that also finishes both pigs and cattle. We're just going to do a quick walk around of this facility. This barn was built in 2017, finished in 2017, and it was our first venture into the cattle industry. Things have gone pretty well, so be glad to show you around and tell you a little bit about what I know about what's going on here.
Okay, before we get started, can you explain a little bit about the shape of the barn?
Yeah, sure. So this is what we call a monoslope building. It's just got one big roof that slants to the south. The benefits of that style of design are kind of threefold. One, in the winter, when the sun is clear in the south, you will get sunlight shining clear to the all areas of the pen, clear to the north side, the south side, so it's warm in the shed. In the summer, when the sun is in the north, it provides shade for all of the cattle, so they aren't getting beat down with the sun. And just the way that the roof is designed, there's always some kind of natural airflow in the building. Even on a calm day, you can sense some airflow. On the north side, we have curtains that we can close when it gets really cold and really windy to block out keep the cattle comfortable. This is also a slatted barn, has a 8-foot deep manure pit underneath of it, and the cattle stand on and live on cement slats that then have a 1-inch rubber mat on top of them to keep them comfortable and keep their feet healthy.
Sorry, we got to pass the microphone back and forth. So now we're going to head up onto the catwalk, which you can see there, and explain a little bit more about the operation. You can see the cattle are all looking up at us. They're a little scared of us.
Alrighty, so as Ellie said, we're now up here on the catwalk. This is just, I'm up here every day when I do chores. It gives a real quick, easy way to look over the cattle and just monitor their health, look at the waterers, make sure they're not frozen, that they're full of water, they're fairly clean. It's a lot safer for myself doing chores rather than getting in that pen with 125 head of cattle in it that might want to play, and when they play, they're a little more rambunctious than your average, just a puppy dog or something. I spend, like I said, I'm up here every day just looking at them. It's a real quick, easy way for me to see just what's going on in the shed. And the other thing is, in this style of barn, with it being a slatted barn, we can our stocking density is much higher, in that the cattle have less square feet than they do in outside pens, and less bunk space as well. And that's just a benefit of this design, in that we don't need as big a footprint. But with that being said, not all the cattle come up to the bunk right at feeding. So there'll be about a third at the bunk after I feed, a third standing waiting in line, and then about a third of them still laying down, and just knowing that there'll be feed there later in the day when they do get up. So that gives me, the catwalk gives me the opportunity to go overhead, look past the ones that are standing at the bunk and see who's still laying down, see if there's some issue that we need to address, or if everybody looks healthy and just waiting their turn.
And what do you do if you see a calf that is down or sick?
So, like I said, it's a little more challenging. In an outside feed yard, a lot of times they're able to tell if there's a sick calf by that it doesn't come to the bunk right away because there's a lot of bunk space. There's enough space for all of them to be up there. In this barn, most mornings there'll be at least some calves still laying down, and just because they're laying down after feeding here doesn't mean they're sick or they need treatment. So what I'm really looking for is a calf that just is moving slow. A calf that is really dirty is a lot of times a sign of one that's been down and not feeling like wanting to get up and move around and rub shoulders with his buddies and go to the bunk. So those are the things we're really looking for. If we do have one that we find is not in good health, we will sort him out and take him into our working facilities and give him a vaccine of some sort to hopefully help him get better. And most times we will mark him, make note of what his tag number is, and turn him back into the pens and then monitor him over the next few days. Certain calves we'll leave it out of the pens for a while, but we've actually found that turning them back and getting them back into their normal routine has been the best option for us a lot of times.
Okay, let's walk down and look at the water. So you can see that there's some calves drinking there, but they have access all day to clean water, so they're taking advantage of that. All right, let's head down and we'll look at their bunks in the alleyway, and then we'll head to the commodity shed. Explain a little bit about the bunk and the alleyway.
Yeah, sure. So this barn has bunks on both sides, as you saw when we were up in the catwalk. There's about 9 inches or so of bunk space per head, and like I said, they rotate throughout the day who's up here eating. So these cattle, let me back up a little bit. These cattle come in to this building at around 800 pounds, and they'll leave here between 15 and 1600 depending on just how they grow and what the market is like at the time we're ready to sell them. So what we're feeding right here, and we'll go over the commodity shed in a little bit and see more, is what we call a TMR, a total mixed ration. And in this, there's primarily made up of ground cracked dry corn right now, gluten, which is a byproduct of ethanol production, and then a mixture of ground hay and soybean stubble that we bale, and we buy the hay and then grind it up. And then there's a little bit of a protein balancer that goes into this as well. And as the cattle grow, we maintain those same 3 ingredients, but we change the ratios of the ingredients. We change the ration to increase the energy within the ration as they get bigger, and then also to finish them off with the right marbling when they get to the freezer.
Okay, let's head to the commodity shed. And while we're walking, can you tell me a little bit about your education and where you went to school?
Yep. So I went to Iowa State. I'm a 2016 graduate of the agricultural business program, and from there, after graduating from Iowa State, I came back to the family farm and started with the cattle building and cattle industry here. Helped my dad on the row crop side and the hog side as well, and then I also do some work for Granular, which is a technology company that really focuses on the crop production side of fertility management and business analytics as well for the row crop production. So here we are at the commodity shed. So we put all of the feedstuffs inside to keep rain from changing the moisture content of the feeds, as well as to reduce runoff and waste of the feed. So we have concrete floors full of building overhead, and then a concrete pad out front here where we load the feed wagon on, and then it's easy to clean up, keep things looking nicer, and reduce waste, as I said. So this pile here is the gluten. This is between this and corn are the two primary ingredients we feed. This is a byproduct of ethanol that we get out of Cedar Rapids. Go through just under 2 semi-loads of this a week when the barn is full. It's a fairly wet, it's almost 50% moisture. Then we go in and we have corn here, and this is just corn that's harvested, field corn, that we run through a grinder to crack up the kernels and make it easier to digest for the livestock, for the cattle. We go through about a semi-load of corn a week, and we do our own grinding. This is corn that we harvest off of our own fields, store in our own bins, and then bring up as we need. And then our last main ingredient is ground hay, and you can see right there in the middle is some ground soybean stubble. The hay has a little bit of nutritional value, but cattle require scratch in their rumen to digest feed properly and grow. That's where the hay comes in to do that. And we just use the soybean stubble to reduce cost of the hay, because we're able to bale our own soybean stubble and we don't have any hay ground, so we end up buying our own hay, or buying all the hay, and then we mix it with the soybean stubble to reduce cost. Our last, get in here. Our last ingredient we feed is just this real fine, dense protein mixture. This is fed really at small rates of only about 3 to 4/10 of a pound per head. So I only feed about 200 pounds of this total in a day. The cattle will actually, they're eating upwards of 40 pounds per head per day of a total TMR. So we talked about TMR. This is how we create the TMR in this with the feed wagon. It's got one big reel and 2 little augers in there that tumble the ingredients together. Put about 5,400 pounds or so in this, and that feeds 1 pen's worth of feed. So feeding about 20,000 pounds of feed every day with that. So.
And what's the feeding schedule like? What time? When do you do that?
So typically I'm feeding around 7:30 to 8 o'clock in the mornings. Takes just over an hour to feed all 4 pens. And try and stay fairly consistent with that, as the cattle like consistency and thrive on consistent feeding time.
And how many cows or cattle are in the barn right now? How many head?
So the barn right now is, I think, 495 head or 494 head. The barn has a capacity of 499 head. And the reason for that and not 500 is manure management regulations kick in with 500 animal units, and they get more strict. So at 499 animal units, we're able to stay under the manure management regulation threshold, but we obviously still practice good manure management skills. We're licensed to haul our own manure. We take the class to do that, and to be as safe and as friendly as we can with that process and application.
And if you want to learn more about that manure management, those numbers, we have a blog called "A Turkey Does Not Equal a Cow," so you can learn more about that on the blog. All right, I think that's about all we have for you. Thanks for tuning in to our farm chat. Let us know if you have any questions, and I can answer them in the comments, or we can answer them now. We'll go look one more time at the cattle, and then we'll be done. So please comment any questions that you have. Thank you for tuning in to our farm chat. Oh, can you show us how you measure pounds on the feed wagon?
Oh, absolutely. That was one big thing we forgot. So there is a scale on the front of the feed wagon, but it is tied via Bluetooth to an iPad that I keep that I move between the loader tractor right there, and the feed wagon tractor. And that iPad runs an app called Performance Livestock Analytics. And there is that app and that program is really, really neat in that, to start with, my nutritionist has access to my login on that app, and we're partners on there, and he can build rations for me. And so a lot of times I'll end up with some drier corn, and then when we get to harvest, we'll try and feed some wetter corn. So I call him up and I say, hey, we're doing 20% corn, and he builds me a new ration with 20% corn. And then it just shows up in my iPad. I don't have to go get papers from him or anything. And then as I put that iPad in my loader tractor and I tell it, okay, I want to feed load 1, it says, okay, you need to load 2,300 pounds of corn, and it counts down. It's synced to the scale head on the feed wagon. I say I'm done. I go to the gluten, I go to the hay, does the same thing, and then it tracks the cattle's performance. So we put in all the info about the cattle when we purchase them, how much they cost, their purchase weight, who the owner is, and then it tracks all those pounds of feed to each pen and then to each group of cattle, and then also provides a growth model for us as well.
All right, perfect. If we have any other questions, go ahead and put them in the comments, and then we will be done. And again, I will answer all your questions in the comments afterwards as well if you have one that you watch later and you have one. And there's kind of a final view of the barn. And
thank you everybody for your time. Like Ellie said, if you have questions, let her know, and if she can't answer them, she'll get to me.
What do you both like most about farming? That's from Anna, who is a first grader.
Hi, Anna. So what I like most about farming is just being outdoors, working outside, and working with my family. Do a lot of always seeing my parents, a lot of seeing my sisters as well, and so just working together, working on the land, working outside is really a joy for me.
I like farming because it kind of it's something that's really important, and it's something that matters a lot, and feeding the world is so important, and we're seeing that especially right now with the COVID situation. And so I just really liked that you feel as though you're really doing something that matters, and I think that's really important. So with that, there's one final view of the barn. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. We'll be done now.